Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. I'm still a bit under the weather, Michael Rudnin. Thank you for being here, my brother. Michael, I won't be able to read all of those, but great stuff Michael has in the chat, folks. Be sure to check it out. Yvette Avery Herod was second in the line. How you doing, Yvette? Says afternoon, PDR Posse. Patrick Magner. How you doing, Patrick and I? Patrick, I won't call it a debate. We're gonna have a civil discussion as far as your disagreement with me and my stance on AI. I can't wait to hear your philosophical reasons, etc. E2247 is in the house as well. Great to see E2247 around. He says, a house of dynamite, a sober example of what happens if we don't walk back from nuclear brinksmanship. UCS experts clearly say nuclear weapons are a liability, not an asset. I agree. Bronis Egberto, just the first one and last one then. Okay, let's see. You ask, I oblige. First one says, a big blue wave for Democrats. Let's see, two pads forward. It wasn't just the Democrats as predicted. One key race in Virginia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, New York City. In race after race, the margins of victory included double digit wins in Virginia and New Jersey governor's races, where what resonated county after county moved blue. Zohran Mandami, the 34-year-old Democratic Socialist elected New York City's mayor, told supporters his victory represented a mandate for a new kind of politics, a mandate for a city we can afford. Left wing elected officials and strategists argue that the party has become so unpopular that it needs young outsiders like Mamdani to run in on an unapologetic progressive vision. I agree. A mirror image of what Trump and his allies did in the Republican Party over the past decades, while I differ in the way that is characterized about what Donald Trump did. Donald Trump lied, and he lied by putting progressive values onto right wing crap, but that's for another day. While moderate and establishment Democrats argue that it was progressives who made Democrats unpopular in the first place, thanks to their embrace of slogans such as defund the police, the party needs more center left practical candidates with appealing biographies. You're going to hear Marlon and I discuss that. That is not where we need to go at all, at all. Last one from Michael Rudnin is The Nation. It works. His works completed. Dick Cheney, mass murder of Iraqis and American democracy dies as much as the Trumpists claim to disavow the war on terror. They walk a path paved by the most powerful vice president in history. No hell is hot enough or eternal enough for Dick Cheney. Any discussion of his works must begin with 2021 assessment of Brown University cost of war project that found conservatively that the war on terror killed between 897,000 and 929,000 people across five of its battlefields. Co-director Netta Crawford called that assessment vast undercount, since it doesn't take into account the downstream casualties caused by epidemiological effects of destroying the infrastructure of the countries Cheney helped bomb, and our own lack of infrastructure as well, sir. Invade and occupy. Cheney shares the blame for what surely is a death of more than 1 million people, with many other, especially George W. Bush, the president he served. But while Bush was a self-styled decider, Cheney was the most crucial architect the war on terror had, shaping the decisions Bush made. Look, but it's no different than I sit down here and watch Trump talk about invading Venezuela. For what? Blowing ships out. For what? Who give these people the right to say, I can go into your country and bomb your military assets? I mean, it boggles the mind, the arrogance, the ill will of these people that think they can go into foreign countries and they have the right to do what they want. And then they wonder sometimes why there is blowback. I'm hoarse as it is right now, so I don't want to get too excited, but you guys understand where I'm coming from. It is sad. It is sad that that's where we're at. All right, Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. Welcome. Eric from Kingwood of Tescasita. Welcome. We also have E2247 who says, Dr. Laura Grego, Senior Research Director of UCS. Yvette Avery Herod says, hope you're all better soon. I hope so too. I have a big function, a big Panamanian function on Saturday. It's going to be a long Saturday. I have to drive to Austin to pick up a whole bunch of Panamanians that are flying into Austin. I have to hope that the flights aren't delayed with this shutdown. Come back here, get ready, and MC the program that afternoon. It's going to be a crazy Saturday. And I have to try to get healed from this crap that I got. Muzz Maniac, welcome aboard. I'm trying, brother. I'm trying. All right. Michael says the media is highlighting Democratic infighting as a takeaway from yesterday's blue wave. We don't need to follow what the media has to say, but I know what they're trying to do. Welcome aboard, Rev Carlton, Julie, Lynette, Hirut, Kidane, Marianne. Welcome aboard. Great to have you here in the chat. Angie Decadence, I just love that name. Frank, welcome aboard. We also have in the house Marie McQueen, Lana Foley. If I miss you, just type your city state and we'll call you out. Karen Zokar, MD, Mary Sharum, welcome aboard. I think I got those that came in. There's a long name. Vocal, how do you say that name? R. Vogel Schwabzi. That's a hard name. That's a hard one for me to pronounce. All right. I have a long video that we have to get played, so let's go ahead and get it done. Right now, it's about the election. Welcome to another edition of Egberto Off the Record. Today, I'm honored once again, to be with the one and only Marlon Weems. You know that? The stock master is what I call him. The stock master,
I don't know, man. I don't know if anybody can master this stock market.
Well, I tell you that you did great in your heyday of that. But anyway, we have a lot to talk about, but specifically the swing back, the landslide of yesterday that not even the polls predicted. And
you see, I got my New York cup.
I noticed you have your New York. But anyway, we want to start discussing this and we want to take this on actively. Let me just pose the question like this. Marlon, what the hell happened yesterday?
Mom Donnie said it. They defeated a dynasty. People just said, okay, you know what? Enough. I mean, you had districts and not just New York, which, we can talk about that, but I was really concerned about New Jersey. I thought we needed I just assumed that was going to be a nail biter. And New Jersey, Virginia, and New York, all those races were called well before midnight.
But they weren't.
I think like 30 minutes in.
Yeah, they weren't close.
No, they were not.
The other thing that I have to ask is, think about this, Marlon. None of the polls predicted that.
They did not. Sorry about that. I had to hit my do not disturb there.
I hear you, man.
No, they didn't. And what I found interesting, especially in New Jersey, were some of the areas where Trump had really won double digits flipped. And I think we really have Trump to thank because he has done everything he can to make people not want to vote for Republicans. From tariffs, prices going up, tearing down the White House. Could he not have waited to do that until November 5th or 6th? I mean, it's like he's not worried about running off voters.
I think the guy is mentally unstable. No rational thinking person would do the things that he did. I mean, even as simple as sending a note to the grocery stores. I mean, even though it's a legal note, I did some research on that. Even though it's a note to tell grocery stores you can't give special allowances to people who were on SNAP or anything like that.
it is like you're stopping these guys from eating, and at the
You're
same time,
stopping people from helping them get food.
and you're stopping them from being able wanted to help them with reduced pricing for food. Tell me,
I don't know how you enforce that.
you know, but a lot of grocery stores, major chains.
Oh yeah, just from a legal point of view,
they don't know if Trump is going to send a monitor in there, and with that monitor, figure out that they're doing something and act accordingly. So that was in it. But here's what I want to talk to our audience about. You know, we've been a lot of times we've been talking about you have to engage, and if you engage, good things happen. And a lot of people hadn't been doing that. Well, we started to get the No Kings March, where people started to really stand up. The No Kings March started with 3 million, I believe, and at the end we had 7 million. There are estimates that say we're over 10 million. But here's the thing, Marlon. The next thing after that was successful was, okay, you can get a whole lot of the crowd out, but can you get them to the polls? California, Prop 50, not a human being, not a person, got over 33% of their electorate out to vote on this issue and counted. We look at New York, largest voter participation in a mayor's race since the 1960s.
Yes.
We get Mikey Sherrill, who was supposed to be in trouble from Ciccarelli or whatever his name is. You know, I think they can do the polls. I think that the weight of, you know, the way they do these polls is they put weight-ins and one person may have a higher weight than the other. And I think they started giving the Trump voter a higher weight. I think they better reconsider the kind of weighting scheme and scenario that they use in these polls, because these polls were not close.
Well, one of the problems with polls, and for a long time it has worked, but a lot of these polls that you see are framed around the idea of likely voters.
Right.
And what you see I wrote something 2 or 3 years ago, back when we had the blue wave, you know, in the last midterms, I guess.
Right.
And it's almost like a black swan event where you have unlikely voters that show up. People, you know, for whatever reason, maybe they don't like Cuomo, but they don't feel like Democrats are showing them anything. And so those unlikely voters, those people who normally do not care, are starting to show up. There was one interview that I heard on the radio when I was driving yesterday. And they asked the guy, you know, they just random people, why'd you vote? Why are you voting? And one guy's motivator was, at least according to what he said, Trump tearing down the White House.
Yeah.
It's that one thing, you know, so he's not, how do you account in a poll for a guy where that's his issue? Not food prices, not gas, not, you see, so that's the thing you're getting. And, you know, we've been told young people do not vote. Well, guess what? I think I even saw like Mikey Sherrill, I mean, getting outsized percentages of the under 30 vote. So, I mean, that's the problem with polls. I will give credit, and I'm not a big fan of Frank Luntz, but I saw him on Bloomberg Monday, and he called it. He said, I think the Democrats are going to sweep across the board. And I was like, oh, that scares me, you know, for him.
Luntz, I mean, knows how to fool people very well. So, you know, he knows what's on the underside. Here's the thing. Similar to what you said about breaking the White House was what caused him to vote the way he did. Suzanne English says, I'm in New Jersey and was really worried. The law sides were very much for Ciccarelli, but there was an energy turn when Trump stopped funding the Gateway Tunnel. So similarly, you talked about the White House, that he stopped funding the tunnel, and that made a difference. You sit down there, and I think earlier when we started the conversation, you said, "Thank you, Donald Trump." You know?
Yeah, I mean, honestly. Because he didn't really poll with any of these people. He didn't poll with the opponent, Spanberger's opponent. He didn't stump, rather, you know.
Right.
I don't know if he saw the handwriting on the wall and didn't want to be. In fact, you know, he doesn't like to be associated with a loser.
Right.
So, but he doesn't seem interested in helping anybody but him. So now, there's that.
Let me say this, Marlon, because in as much as we can say, okay, thank you, Donald Trump, I don't want that to be the answer. I don't want the answer to be Democrats won because of how bad Donald Trump is. I think, and I think there is one race that went ahead and Donald Trump didn't have much to do with it for his success. And that is a Mandami race. Mandami went ahead and did civil. He activated the youth vote by going to topics that concern the youth. He went to the older folks, topics that concern their rent. He actually went on topic, not building a tunnel or the White House falling. And you go to New York, it's none of those Trump things that people are voting for. They're voting for, they want somebody who understands the plight of the working class right now and that is seem willing to do it. If that means opening a grocery store in a food desert, if that means forcing rent control on parasites that continue to milk folks from their, with the rents that they charge, that's what's going to be done. And that's what he believes. I mean, I think for those who are looking for the Mickey Sherrill, whether the main form of campaigning is going to be Mikey Sherrill or Spanberger, I think they better look at, again, what you said in the beginning, thank you, Donald Trump, and what Suzanne English said, where it's when it was the tunnel. Because what did you do when there's no tunnel that he's stopping, or when it is forgotten that he broke a piece of the White House? Then what have you got?
Right. Well, I'll use an anecdote.
Yes.
I don't stream. So, I mean, I don't pay for cable. So I wasn't tuned into MSNBC. I was listening to it on Sirius. And, we hunted around on the smart TV and found his, just as he was about to speak. And my daughter, who's graduated from college, moved back with us temporarily. And she stopped what she was doing to sit down and watch him. And what I observed was reminiscent of when we all first started to notice Obama.
Right.
And she was clocked in. And at a certain point, she looked at me and said, "Ooh, I just got to chill." And now she votes because she lives with me. You can't be in the top and not vote.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact she and her friends are disaffected by all of the things that he's talking about. And we're not in New York. I keep hearing people trying to downplay, well, New York is different. And New York is different. I've lived in New York. But affordability is not confined to New York in terms of an issue. We got that same, she can't rent an apartment here by herself like you and I could when we were in our 20s, right? And so to me, the idea that he's a one-off or an anomaly, I think is really missing the point. And stay tuned.
Let me tell you this, okay? The establishment is going to get the wrong message. They're going to try to isolate Mamdani in New York and Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill as the template. And I'm telling you, they are not the template.
They are not the template. They are
not the template.
They are.
When you have got to, because again, what English said, what you said in the beginning. Here we have Cheryl Elkins who says, I am in Massachusetts. Voter turnout for the municipal elections was underwhelming, less than 30%. This is a wake-up call here. We must do better getting out the vote for the midterms. Check it out. Mandami brought out more people, highest level than in 69.
Since the 60s, man. And we're talking about the civil rights era.
That's not what Mikey Sherrill did. He brought out the people to win. He got over 50% of the vote in a three-way race.
Yes, he
did.
He
got more than 50% of the vote in a race that Donald Trump said, please don't vote for the Republican, vote for the Democrat that I used to hate. Yeah. I mean, this is what we're talking about. The template for going forward is not Mikey Sherrill. I mean, I am happy that they won. I love that.
Oh, I am too. I am too.
They are good women. They are darn good, solid Democrats. But that we know darn good, solid Democrats have been doing what over the last several years? Losing.
Let me tell you something, man. I listen to Bloomberg Radio a lot, just old trader stuff.
Well, you're a stuff guy, man. We know that.
So they are already trying to frame Spanberger as a presidential candidate. No, she ain't pulling nobody out. I mean, look, nothing against her. She will be, I'm sure, a very good governor.
Yeah, governor.
Is she going to excite people and get people off the couch?
No.
And I'm talking about what Mamdani did was he built an entirely different coalition that nobody had an answer for. Think of how much money they threw at this guy. I don't know what the number is. I haven't been able to look this morning, but you got Bloomberg throwing money. You got Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, everything Democrats, legacy Democrats had. They threw everything but the kitchen sink at this guy. All kind of racist, Islamophobic stuff, and it's embarrassing how badly they were defeated. I read this morning, of course, he got the young people. He got Orthodox Jews.
Yes.
I had to read it twice.
Yes.
Orthodox Jews. He got people Upper West Side, like affluent areas of New York. Come on.
It is crazy. It is crazy. Look, the North Star, Operation North Star, it wants to point out that Mikey Sherrill had almost 600,000 more votes than Murphy had in 2017. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we're talking about, Operation North Star. What we're talking about specifically is bringing out the people. What we said is Mikey Sherrill got a shot in the arm for what again? The tunnel. Mikey Sherrill got a shot in the arm for quite a few things that we're saying. When those things are not there, what do you have? Look, we are happy for both Mikey Sherrill. We're very happy for Stanberg. Absolutely so. But they are not the template to rebuild the Democratic Party. The template to rebuild the Democratic Party is what Mamdani did. And he did it on a fraction of the cost of what they did.
Think about the difference in those three candidates. Let's take the two ladies, Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill. These are established Democrats. These are people that were in the House of Representatives, got name recognition, got a certain amount of built-in money behind them, right? So they should have won. Look, they're running against candidates that were in Virginia. That one was a joke.
Yes.
Okay. So of course she should have won. And like you said, that's not really the point. What we saw with Mamdani was a guy who came from 1% to 51%. I mean, that, if it's been done, I am not familiar with that kind of a phenomenon.
No. Well, we have the numbers. It has not been done.
I've never seen it.
It has not been done. Obama is the closest thing. And I don't know if you remember how Obama did it. Obama had a lot of time.
Yeah.
He started by going to universities with his book. He had that book. And I'm in Kingwood, a very red area. And what was happening is that Obama got his book into universities, the university students. He used to have these big rallies. And then the students would come home, and I would go to parties at Republicans' homes supporting Obama because these parents had the book that their kids say, "Mom, Dad, you got to read this."
The Audacity of Hope.
Right. And when they read that book, they were sold. I was going to so many parties. I was a part of at Obama for America, and I went to so many Republican parties. I used to come home to my wife and say, "I am concerned." Because this isn't going to last. The flip back is going to be rough because that's not who we are.
The first time I heard of this guy, pardon me, man, we've got pollen, hay fever, whatever it is, and it's just in the morning. My wife said to me, there's this guy, Obama, and I really think he's got something going. And I'm like, I really heard. I'm like, Obama. And I look him up and I said, girl, there is no way America is going to vote for a person whose middle name is Hussein. It is not going to happen. It cannot happen. Well, it happened. It happened 2 times. Exactly. Now, the interesting thing with him is that he kind of started off on a trajectory that's similar to Bill Clinton in the sense that, remember, he had a big speech in, I guess, the Democratic convention.
Oh, yeah, that was in 2004.
What would it have been? 2000, I guess?
2004.
2004.
Vividly.
And that was really,
together.
Yeah, that was his entry to this, to the scene. Now, Bill Clinton, same thing, but he was actually infamous because of his speech, because it went so long, if you remember. But it put him on the radar screen, and he parlayed that into, remember Arsenio, and he was like playing his saxophone and all that stuff. Yeah. So anyway, man, it's somebody saying, get a shot of what from my doctor? Yeah, I need to get a shot of something because it's troublesome. It messes with my throat.
Well, let me talk about Bill Clinton, because I mean, people like to put that comparison. Bill Clinton, first of all, let's give him his kudos. Bill Clinton had the largest expansion of the labor market in American history. It's not Reagan, it's Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton also balanced the budget. It's not any Republican. The Republicans have always blown the budget. There's no if, but also Democrats have always had larger GDPs than Republicans. Those are standard statements of fact. But that said, let's remember that Bill Clinton never got 50% of the vote. Okay,
that is right.
All right.
Yeah, I think he won with like what, 44%?
44. Yeah. So let's remember that, and also let's remember that Bill Clinton was a hell of a triangulator, right? And that's what gave neoliberal a tasteful neoliberalism, if you will, came through Bill Clinton. In other words, not as vicious as what Republicans give, but neoliberalism nonetheless. In fact, none of Reagan's stuff really got overturned. All the supply side stuff, neither under Bill Clinton, neither under Obama was any of that really changed. And what's so funny about it is a lot of that was mitigated by the Democrat that many people like to hate. And that is the one and only Joe Biden. Joe Biden, he used the IRA to implement the progressives' wet dreams. And nobody talks about it because, again, it was a success that nobody wants to talk about in the Democratic Party.
You're talking about the Inflation Reduction Act.
The Inflation Reduction?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What's the first thing Trump did when he got in? He started dismantling it.
Yes.
That's what let you know it was a success.
Yes. And it's funny because he's the one that brought down poverty 50% in one year. 50%, 1 year. So it shows you that progressive policies work, but that even the Democratic Party is fearful of supporting progressive policies because the masters that pay both parties won't. But all in all, it was just great, Marlon, with the wins. I want to bring up another subject with regards to I went to Fox News. It's funny.
I decided
after I kept on watching the good stuff on MSNBC, I decided to turn to Fox News. And these guys were really talking about how wrong California was for doing this redistricting and how bad. And I'm sitting down, listen, I'm waiting for them to say, but California is only doing it because Texas did it. That was not mentioned at all. And we wonder why the people on the right are so ill-informed. You watched Fox News last night. You thought you were in a completely different universe where Democrats were just doing things to take advantage of the system. And it was like, my God, you guys are trying to redistrict Florida. You're trying to redistrict North Carolina. North Carolina has already been redistricted.
It's already done. Yeah, that's where I am.
Indiana, we just have Maryland.
Kansas, I think. Maybe.
Yes.
So it's that whole phenomenon is interesting to me because, you can draw lines all you want to, but you can't decide who's going to vote and how. And I am really wondering I'm just interested to see how this turns out, especially, because, maybe it affects the House, certainly, right? But, Senate races are statewide. So there's that.
Oh, no, I think the Senate is up for grabs. The Senate is up.
In Texas, you mean?
Right. I am in very red area. And we are watching Republicans that are starting to say, this is crazy. Remember, Republicans have healthcare problems as well. In fact, in red states, more so than in blue states. Because in blue states, they take better care of their people than in red states. Red states are more dependent on government. And as you shrink...
That is what is so crazy about it to me. When you look at SNAP, for example, it hurts everybody that needs it, but Mississippi's probably going to get hurt a lot worse than New York.
Absolutely.
It's the craziest thing. And what I have not been able to unravel in my mind, and I guess I know the answer, but, you look at these farmers that voted for Trump in 2016, and he decimated the farming industry. All kinds of bankruptcies, all kinds of stuff. And how did he do it? Tariffs on China. These people spent years and decades building these relationships. They will never get them back. And what do? 4 years later, they vote for the same guy again, who is telling them he's going to do the same exact thing. And so he does. And now look where we are. It's even worse. Now they've done this deal, Xi and Trump. And okay, China's going to buy a little bit of soybeans. Number one, soybean season, I think, is pretty much over for this year. Yeah. So whatever they're going to do, that's next year. And the numbers that they're talking about are a fraction of what farmers were getting before the first Trump term. What they're going to get now would have been a failed crop season.
Yes.
So help me understand that.
Well, let me tell you. First of all, there are two things. When you can change a subject, when you can work on people's racial inhibitions, their gender inhibitions, and all these other things, you can have these people take their eye off the ball. And one of the problems, I feel this is a democratic problem. I would not look. I don't leave anything on the table, Marlon. Mm-hmm. I don't care how deep a MAGA person you are. I'll sit down and have coffee with you. And look, there are some MAGA folks that are immutable. Granted, immutable. But you don't know which ones are.
Right.
You don't know which ones, after speaking to you, even if they leave seeming immutable, something is going to happen in their life that brings up what you were telling, that gives what you were telling them some sort of, oh, wow, I guess what he was saying was right. I'll never admit it to him. But when I go into that voting booth, it's me, myself, and God,
Egberto, I had a guy, I've since had to just give up on him. And before this last election, we had I saved this text chain because it is so, it just underscores the thing that you're talking about. This was a guy who had voted for Trump, and I guess something caused him to have a come to Jesus. Maybe it was January 6th. I'm not voting for Trump no more. And we would talk about these issues. And lo and behold, what does he do? He ultimately flips on everything we've talked about and decides to vote for Trump again. But the reason I'm bringing him up is his argument against Biden was that prices were too high. He had a business. He said his costs were going up. Employees wanted more money. He's having to raise prices. And I said to him, well, what do you think is going to happen when all these tariffs start to get enacted? If you're in trouble now, what do you think is going to happen? Well, I don't think Trump's going to do that.
Yeah, the benefit of the doubt.
I don't think he's going to do that. I told you, I don't like tariffs, and I don't think he's going to do it. Well, here we are.
Now, I usually add another dimension to the to my argument or discussion with these folks, right? A lot of these folks think voting in their interests, which means voting Democratic, is somehow going to mess with their culture, is somehow going to mess with their identity as a Republican. And what I pretty much do often, and I don't really have the right to do that, but I think what I'm doing is projecting what others can to do to them. And I tell them, look, nobody's trying to get you to change your ideology or your party. They're just asking you to vote your interests. That's it. And then they tell them, always tell them is, and here's another thing about voting your interests. Nobody, when you go into that booth, nobody knows how you voted. Nobody. So you can go in there and vote your interest and come out and say, man,
go MAGA.
Yeah, go MAGA. You can do that.
That is,
so I do that in my relay with these people. Now, it's funny because I was at the gym. This was several years ago. And this guy came and he gave me a back slap in the gym. And he's like, Egberto, I'm going to make your day. I'm like, okay, I'm voting for your guy. And he was talking about it was when Beto O'Rourke was running.
Okay.
Texas, et cetera. And he said, I'm voting for your guy. I'm like, oh, great. And I'm ending the discussion there. And then he's walking off and then he turned around. Egberto, but I'm no damn Democrat.
Okay. Okay.
I looked and I said, mission accomplished. I want Republicans to vote for Democrats without thinking they have to become Democrats.
I mean, at the end of the day, the party apparatus, at least in my view, is really not what it used to be. You know,
Right.
where there were the smoke-filled rooms and the guys with cigars, white guys, decide who's gonna run and this sort. It's not that kind of party anymore, dude. And Mondani has proven that.
Right.
And, you know, back to what our original conversation is, or where we began talking about him, that's what he did, what you've described. I mean, he had to get some Republicans to vote for him. When you're talking about the Upper West Side and these, you know, affluent brownstone communities in New York, I got news for you, man. I've lived there. That is not AOC country.
Right. Exactly.
So he spoke to people's interests. Like you said, he's talking about, yet he wasn't focused on Donald Trump except to say, look, if the guy comes from New York, I'm going to be ready.
Right.
And I think I'm just really excited to see how he handles himself. And I think people are going to be surprised.
You know what? It's so funny. What's the name of one of your guys? Banker. What's his name? He bucked the system. What is his name? Name me the banker who I think was with Bank of America or one of those.
Jamie Dimon?
Jamie Dimon has shifted his support for Mandami. He said, I'm going to work with Mandami.
He's got no choice. He's not stupid. He's not stupid.
Right. He said this before Mandami won, right? While all these guys are still pumping money into Cuomo, pumping money into getting them on, you know, somehow some magic happening. And by the way, magic could have happened. Let's be clear here. One of the things that I was so happy about was to see Mammy cross the 50% mark. And let me tell you why. Because the sum total of Silwa and Cuomo, I didn't want that to be over 50%.
Right.
There was a spoiler why he won. He outright won the majority of voters in New York. 50.4%. It's a lot of people in a three-way race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is going to be interesting because I saw the cover of the New York Post this morning. Mm-hmm. And you know, man, New York tabloids are, you know, they're right up there with the UK tabloids.
They're rough.
You know, and so it had a picture, not a photo, but a stylized picture of Mondani. It was red, you know, and so the implication is, and what do you call it? A hammer and sickle.
Right.
And it's like, and they're called, you know, Marxists, socialists, all this. And it's like, for one thing, man, I just wish people would get an understanding of the fact that being a Marxist and being a communist are two different things. And they just say them all, socialist, Marxist, communist, blah, 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 blah. You know, just in other words, just bad stuff, you know. No. And I mean, that's what he's going to get a lot of that, but it doesn't affect him.
But you know what they've done? They've actually made that mean very little because don't forget, Obama was also a Marxist and a socialist. Obama had one of the better. He brought the capitalist system out of their self-destruction. Did right? Think about this. He brought the one bone that I had to pick with Obama is he allowed the capitalists that destroyed the economy in 2008, that cost a lot of people their homes, that got rid of the bank accounts of all these people. Obama said, okay, I am going to revitalize your markets. And that's what he did. I was upset about that. I was like, this was the time that we could really go back to Glass-Steagall, separate investment banking from do all the right things, even though, yes, they did it subsequently, but do all the right things. I wanted to cripple the bankers in 2008. Obama didn't do it.
So I was working on a trading desk, actually running a Wall Street trading desk at that time.
Right.
So let's go back to Bill Clinton. What Bill Clinton did, if you recall, is he is the person who facilitated the fall of Glass-Steagall, which is the Depression had separated banks and investment.
Yeah.
And what you had at the time was, I believe it was Citibank, basically dared the government to stop them by buying Travelers. I think it was Travelers Insurance that they bought in violation of Glass-Steagall. Bill Clinton, part of how he got Wall Street behind him was promising that he'd get rid of Glass-Steagall. And we were cheering, you know, it was good for me at the time. And, you know, what's that, 30-something years ago, I didn't know man. So then you get to Wall Street and Obama. We used to laugh on the trading desk, and we every time this, one iteration of this thing would start to fall, where some bank gets bailed out, and we're going to make this bank and this investment bank merge, so these guys don't have to face the consequences of their behavior. We would just laugh. Socialism on the way down, capitalism on the way up. That's what they say on Wall Street. Now, I would even, I have a different bone with Biden, but it's similar in the sense that when he got in office, what we needed him to do was take Trump to the cleaners in terms of the legal system. And he wasn't, it didn't happen. So, it's similar. And I don't know why. I guess what we have are these Democrats that are, you call them what you want to, establishment, Democrats, whatever, but they will not. Yes.
Stop being nice. They're neoliberals.
Okay, I was looking for that, and it didn't roll off the tongue. But yeah, look, I'm just saying they still want to appease the right. They still they don't quite believe. And what amazes me, man, is if Democrats would just embrace progressivism. I'm telling you, dude, people like this stuff. It is very popular, and no matter how many times the evidence is presented, like last night, like with AOC, like in all these different situations where progressive policies are very popular. You got guys like Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries that they just don't want to hear it.
Exactly. And you know what? Oh, did I lose your voice?
No, you did not. I'm here. I hope.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but it is sad. But you know what, Marlon? I think, again, like I said, right now the Democrats are so happy that Spanberger and Mickey Sherrill won the way they won.
Mm-hmm.
Because they think that is going to be sufficient to mitigate the party driving towards damage. Marlon, give me a closer as to what are your thoughts about what occurred in the election yesterday, and where do we go from here?
More proof. I keep saying these progressive policies are popular. What we have to have, just those of us that are that lean towards the Democratic Party, and you don't necessarily have to be a member of the party to share some of the same goals. I just feel like we've got to have just sort of a cleanup of all of the leftover, the neoliberal folks, because they don't, when you get that power, you don't want to let it go. And I'll name everybody. Look, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, because a lot of these people are in the background driving a lot of the dissent that we hear about, that when it comes to progressive, because it's contrary to the way they made their names, and which was basically corporate money, trying to appease Republicans, this sort of thing. And you know what I'm talking about. I just think that, and I will tell you, at least in New York, now I don't know the lay of the land in Virginia and New Jersey quite as well, but Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, I think, need to be getting their affairs in order, because I think AOC is going to run against Schumer and she will win if she does. And I think Hakeem Jeffries, if you look at how Mamdani performed in his district, it's begging somebody to primary him.
Exactly. I tell you what, and worse, everybody keeps talking about Hakeem Jeffries being the next Speaker of the House if the Democrats take over.
Who's saying that?
Not anymore. I think it's the neoliberals that are saying that. I'm saying if I have any part to do with it, he will not be the Speaker of the House. He shouldn't be the Speaker. But anyway, look, Marlon, it's sorry for the technical glitch that we had.
No, it happens, man. Live TV, as they say.
Yeah, so I'll splice these two together and prepare it for our audience. But thank you so kindly for spending this time with me here discussing the election. There's nobody that I wanted to speak to first about it right after it occurs. So thank you so kindly.
I appreciate the invite. And as you know, anytime, Egberto.
Okay. All right. Now we're back. Now we're back. Okay, folks. Here we are. Sometimes these mics go to sleep. All right. Judy says Jasmine Crockett for speaker. I could deal with that. Patrick, how you doing, my brother? We need to talk sometime. Uh, Early next week after my Panamanian bash on Saturday. We'll do our next session. Let's see. Victory Levi, welcome aboard. Margaret Williams. There's a TikTok video that I wanted to show you all, but for some reason I can't get to TikTok on this particular profile. It keeps giving me a request error, so there may be a problem. So I can't get the stuff that I really want to talk about. Anyway, folks, the next subject that I want to talk about is this. Let me put it on the screen. This is amazing. Everybody is talking about the sweep, right? Election day sweep for Dems, just predictable blue state wins. Guess what? No, it's not. Hi, Nanvi. How you doing? Welcome aboard. No, it's not. Even in Mississippi, this stuff hit. Republicans no longer have a supermajority in Mississippi. You know the redistricting that redistricting that occurred in Texas? Guess what that does? It actually opens the door for Democrats to win more seats. Yes, they get more Republican districts, but they had to marginalize other districts to do it. If we get the voting characteristics that we got in Virginia, that we got in New Jersey, and we got in New York, guess what? They'll win. And Georgia as well. 2 Democrats won in Georgia for the council that takes, I think it's a council that takes care of infrastructure or something like that, LBW, La Profesora LBW, I think that's what it covers. But correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember what the board is that those two won. Important. This this landslide was not just in blue states. In red states, Democrats made major headways. Major headways. Let's go ahead and read this here. Leading Republicans such as U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson and right wing media outlets like Fox News are trying to downplay Democrats' sweeping victories in key elections held on Tuesday, even though many of the party's victories came in areas that are not traditional Democratic strongholds. Speaking in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday morning, Johnson dismissed the Democratic wins as entirely predictable given the recent voting history of New York, New Jersey, and Virginia. But that's not where all the wins were. There's no surprises, Johnson said. What happened last night was blue states and blue cities voting blue. We all saw that coming, and no one should read much into last night. Off-year elections are not indicative of what's to come. Really? That's not what you were saying before. But despite Johnson claims, Democrats on Tuesday also won major victories in 2 southern states that supported President Donald Trump in 2024. As reported by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Democrats Peter Hubbard and Alicia Johnson ousted incumbent Republicans serving on Georgia's Public Service Commission, which is responsible for regulating utility prices in the state. Wow, in Georgia! The Times also reported that Georgia Republicans are worried that the twin losses in the public commissions are an ill omen for next year's election when the GOP will seek to oust Senator John Ossoff. Well, I think John Ossoff is going to win because they're going to say we cannot support Republicans and what they do to our society anymore. In an interview with Politico, one Republican strategist said that the Democrats' wins in Georgia showed the challenges facing the GOP in getting low propensity Trump voters to the poll in elections where he is not on the ballot. No, they're just seeing what they're doing to them. It's not about Trump now. They know they're doubling their insurance rates. They know that they're that what the terrorists are doing? No. The sycophants will still vote for Trump. But the others who can't stomach voting for a Democrat, they're going to stay home. In Mississippi, meanwhile, Democrats broke the GOP supermajority in the state Senate for the first time in over a decade by flipping 3 seats, according to the Mississippi Free Press. Losing the Senate supermajority will make it significantly harder for Mississippi Republicans to override a governor's veto, propose constitutional amendments, and execute certain procedural actions. Wow. While Democrats in the state celebrated the twin wins, Mississippi Democratic Party Chairman Shike Taylor warned that it could be undone if the U.S. Supreme Court strikes down a provision of Voting Rights Act that has historically been used to create of majority minority districts to ensure black voters in the Southern have proper representation. I want us to get away from that fallacy. A brother came that I wanted to play today actually came out and pointed out the following. Stanberger was running against what's her name? The crazy lady. I call her crazy because some of her stance are pretty crazy. But she's a black woman. And 90% of the black vote went to Spanberger. Now here's the thing. Republicans wanted to have that black woman running against running because they thought they would have all the Republican votes and they could corner the black vote by just putting a black woman in there. Just a racist thing they did, right? And it didn't work. It didn't work. Two things happened. Their people's racism superseded any black vote that she would get just for her pigmentation. I should have brought him to Houston. You don't anybody who think black people vote for a black candidate solely because they're black don't understand reality. And that may be projecting their own racist views. I can show you instant after instant in America where majority black areas elect a Latino or elect a white person. No problem whatsoever because those people were going to fulfill what those folks wanted. But in the minds of Republicans who are these Republican leaders who are racist at the core, let's put this token out here. They'll bring us the black vote plus the Republican vote, and we win the election. Well, it backfired. They didn't lose the election, they lost the election in a landslide. Just to show you. Just to show you. So, again, for all of you who think it is time for us to get rid of the myths about colorization, prejudice, and color, and who votes and who can do what, and DEI. All of those things are imaginary things coming from racists. All right, just a thought. Just a thought. Anyway, continue with the article. Last night victories that Mississippi is no longer while the win last night victory proves that Mississippi is no longer a foregone conclusion. We are battleground state, Taylor said, but this win was only possible because of the Voting Rights Act. No, and don't you let anybody hear you say that. All right, and I think Taylor is a black guy. No, it doesn't matter. All right. I get it. I get it. But to some extent, let's give people some cerebro. Let's give people some cerebro, okay? While the wins in Georgia and Mississippi were impressive in their own data analysis, G. Elliott Morris found that shifts toward Democrats weren't confined to any individual state or city, but were incredibly broad. Absolutely. I want to back up from the article and point out something else. We had an election in Sheila Jackson Lee's and Sylvester Turner. Both of them died in District 18. the turnout in that district was pathetic, simply pathetic. A lot of and I'm just making statements of facts. And my black brothers and sisters, don't slam me on this. But a lot of times, what happens in these minority only districts is that the elected minority sells themselves out to the plutocracy because they know they don't even have to work very hard to win. It's like somebody is anointed and they get there and they just, again, don't do anything. Now, Sheila Jackson Lee worked hard, don't get me wrong. But the type of priming your neighborhood, going around your neighborhood and getting people engaged was never there. And people get mad when I speak about this, but I want these politicians earning the votes of the people. I want them to go out there and earn the vote. This is what I'm going to do for you. Egberto, Republicans and the Supreme Court are coming for the 1965 Voting Rights Acts that gave black people and especially black women proper voting rights. If that goes, we might need a second civil rights movement to make No Kings and Black Lives Matter pale in comparison. Here's the thing, Michael. I want to see what happens with the Supreme Court and the Voting Rights Act. What I want is equity at the voting booth. In other words, I don't want voter suppression. No voter suppression. But the idea that well, I don't have enough time to go into that any further. It's 3:59. So finish up at the vlog, but we'll talk about that at another time. Anyway, folks, as you know, we are completely user supported. So I'd like to ask you so kindly to support our program. Best way to support us is to become subscribers to our Substack. By that, I mean paid subscribers of our Substack. And how do you do that? You do that by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I'm going to put that in both chats. Please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Look, we had a great run. Many of you supported us dearly at KPFT, our fund drive. Now, our fund drive at KPFT is just that, a fund drive for KPFT. Where Politics Done Right gets nothing, zero. But we do need your support wholeheartedly. So I ask kindly that those of you who have the wherewithal to do so, to please become paid subscribers of our newsletter. That's a coffee, and support what we do here, which is very, very important to our democracy. Before I go, LBW says there were 18 people in TX18 race. I'm glad 2 decent Dems are headed to the runoffs. Sad that Isaiah Martin didn't get more votes. For the amount of money he raised, that was a hell of an underperformance. That surprised me. I interviewed Isaiah, I interviewed Amanda Edwards. So it was a hell of a surprise. Thank you for bringing that up, LBW. Anyway, folks, I got to get out of here. Thank you all so kindly for being a part of this. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.